Hello, this is Demon Phoenix, and this is another installment of my Deathmarch New Game Plus walkthrough. We're here with episode 7, and this will cover the end of the Skellige questlines and take us through Kaer Morhen so that we can start getting on to the end of the main game questline. So as you can see here, this is just the intro to the Kaer Morhen section, and it's just introducing some of the characters and how they're set up for the next part of the battle. But before we do that, the part that we left the last episode on was where we were just doing some of the Skellige missions, and I still had some of the Skellige quests left to finish off. So once you've started the Skellige quest lines like we had, there's a few things that you have to finish, basically just finishing up and getting the Skellige quest lines completed so that you can get Uma. Now you may also want to do some of the side quests, such as this monster contract with the Chort and a couple of the other monster side quests there as well, because you will get some more experience from doing various things with the side quests and the main quest in Skellige. So if you're about to outlevel any of the side quests, just make sure that you try and complete those first. So as you can see here, it's pretty much business as usual, as long as you've got the correct oil and the Uber build, nothing's difficult. That was the Chort from the Mysterious Tracks monster contract, and this is Sarasti from the Byways contract. So all of them pretty doable, just same as always. Make sure that you have the same 3 decoctions that we always have: the Warthog decoction, the Arakas decoction and the Ekimara decoction. And if you're using the Ard Suite version, as we've detailed in previous episodes of the New Game Plus walkthrough, by having the Ard Suite with the extra points that you get in New Game Plus after you complete the build, then you want the Ancient Lesson decoction as well. So as you can see here, make short work of both of those. You also get the Chortler from which is an alchemy recipe, one of the very few ones that you will actually have lost when you started New Game Plus afresh, and you'll be able to get that in New Game Plus, and that will just give you just over 300 toxicity, which allows you to use 4 decoctions and the 20-point potion on top of that, something like Superior Tawny Owl, Superior Maribor, Superior Swallow or Superior Golden Oriole. Those are all 20-point potions. Now you can see there that my Ursan armor has changed again, and I'll be coming on to that in just a minute because I did level up a little bit. In the last episode we covered going to Toussaint a little early and completing some of the quests there if you wanted. The first quest, just to unlock Corvo Bianco. So you just complete the quest there with Morkvag, it's pretty easy. Make sure that if you're wanting to do the Last Wish side quest with Yennefer, that you do that as well. And you can see here that you can switch to Cat Eyes before you do any of the underwater sections. And it just makes your crossbow stronger for taking out the drowners, because they are annoying on Deathmarch on New Game Plus. In particular, the scaling goes a bit funny. Now speaking of scaling, if you're doing the Last Wish quest and you have to fight the Jinn, you can see here that this is even with the protective coating, the elemental oil and the Viper and Manticore Grandmaster trousers. With all that elemental resistance, you still almost die if you're on Deathmarch and have enemy upscaling on, because the enemy upscaling sort of messes up the Jinn for this particular quest. So don't be cocky like I am here. This is more of a proof of concept. That is doing absolute minimum damage and it still rips off half my health. So you want to turn off enemy upscaling for the Jinn when you're doing this, okay? So when you're doing the Jinn, turn off enemy upscaling before you start the fight, because sometimes it doesn't downscale it properly if you do it during the fight, okay? So make sure they get that sorted. Now again, when you're doing the King's Gambit quest, you'll have to pick if you're supporting Hjalmar or Ceres. Now I did choose Ceres again here, but it's much more of a in the first walkthrough I recommended that you choose Ceres because you get the Place of Power, and because the sword that you get from Hjalmar's quest will quickly become out leveled. But in New Game Plus, depending on how high you started, you might want to do Hjalmar's quest and then reset before you get the sword that he gives you, because that sword can have up to 199% critical hit damage. But I decided that because I hadn't started New Game Plus, I'd started at level 61, still really wasn't worth me using that sword, because obviously the Witcher ones at level 100 would be better and things like that, so long term doesn't really make a difference. So I went with Ceres again here. Now I got the enhanced legendary Ursan and the legendary Ursan enhanced steel sword, so I add severance to the sword, and when you're upgrading the chest armor from the regular to the enhanced, you have to add levity to it again. Now I was a little bit over leveled because I had gone to Blood and Wine like we said in the last episode, so you may get there after Kaer Morhen instead of before, but just bear that in mind. Now you can see here that these are the 2 Necker maps that are next to an abandoned site in Hearts of Stone. And the reason I'm showing them here is because they're an excellent place to level up Arendite if you got a bit behind, because there will be Red Skull Necker enemies. But you can use Fixative and the Overpowered oil with the setup that we always have to take minimum damage from the monsters. Video freezes here for just a minute, but you get the idea. It's pretty much just killing Neckers. So you can fight these Neckers. And basically what it means is that you can level up Arendite, because even though you're doing massive damage to them, they will be Red Skull enemies, so it will still take quite a few hits. But because we have 100% monster resistance, they won't be doing much damage or breaking Quen, so you can very safely get in a ton of hits with Arendite if it has been falling behind on leveling up its permanent charges, but you still did want to use it. I had about 30 points missing because I'd got a couple of points, a couple of levels pretty quickly, so that's 10 points a level. Otherwise, I've been doing a pretty good job of keeping it leveled up. You may have already ditched Arendite for the Ursine swords or some of the other silver swords if you'd got fed up of the leveling mechanic yet. But I do like to have my Arendite from the original playthrough and my new Arendite from New Game Plus when we do Blood and Wine again, both leveled up to the max, and just have 2 full Arendite. So I've stuck with it for now. But if you wanted to, you could just use one of the other silver swords instead, like the Ursine silver sword or something like that. Anyway, level up Arendite there, and you'll see that after I've taken out the monsters from both of these nests, I've actually got quite a few points back into, of the permanent points back into Arendite, and it's caught up again, and it's all good to continue. There is a bit coming up later in the story where you'll be able to level it up quite easily with infinitely respawning enemies anyway. I'm sure a lot of people already know what I'm talking about, but I'll come on to that in just a minute. Not in a minute, rather, in another episode. That'll be in the next episode. Anyway, you can see here that you also have to do this extra bit as part of the Skellige quest where you're playing as Ciri again. It's very similar to the parts in Novigrad. Don't try and take on too many enemies at once. If 2 of the Wild Hunt guards are trying to fight you at once, it can get a bit tricky. So if you lose a lot of health, you just want to dodge away a lot with Blink until you can find an area where there's only 1 or 2 of them, and just keep your distance and get your health back. Now coming on to the Kaer Morhen part of the game, we're doing Kaer Morhen with the first fight as the Wild Hunt attack. So you can see there that I was using the Ursine, whichever legendary Ursine chest or the enhanced one, depending on which you've got. I've swapped fast metabolism for fixative here, and that's so that I can just have the elemental oil up, because you're fighting a lot of enemies, and I don't like having the hassle of having to keep reapply the oil. I can live without fast metabolism for this little bit. Now they do take elemental oil, and as well as having the Ursine chest, the normal Nilfgaardian gauntlets and the Manticore boots, we've also got the Manticore trousers. Now what that lets us do is it has reasonably high elemental resistance from the trousers, and then the rest of the resistances are still good enough for fighting the actual guards, because the hounds do elemental damage and the actual warriors of the Wild Hunt do not. So that's why it's good to have the Manticore trousers, or whichever Grandmaster medium trousers that you're carrying, as if you've been following the walkthrough, you will have one of those sets of trousers that has really high elemental damage for using with the Viper gear, usually against wraiths, but we're going to use it here anyway. Now that does have the added bonus of giving you over 305 toxicity points, which if you're using 4 decoctions will still let you use Thunderbolt after it. Now normally we don't do that because the Unvic trousers give such good balanced resistances for when you're fighting human enemies or anything that uses bludgeoning, like elementals and golems, which can do bludgeoning damage in addition to the regular monster types of damage, which is why we normally use the Unvic trousers. But if you want a more offensive and slightly worse on the defensive side version of the build, you can use Manticore, and that gives you 25 points, which lets you use stuff like 4 decoctions and Thunderbolt, 4 decoctions and Blizzard and things like that. Now a little bit later into the Kaer Morhen fight, you will see that my decoctions have actually reset here. And because it doesn't give you a chance to meditate or anything, sometimes you don't get a chance for it to automatically restock your decoctions. So we've got another fight here, but I don't have the normal decoctions that I have. Now your 2 choices are either to use 3 different decoctions. You could go with something like the Echidna, the Griffin and the Succubus, something like that, and you could be very comfortably using Euphoria with those. Or you could just pile on all of your potions apart from White Honey and Cat, and just pile all of those on to get the toxicity from Euphoria, and the effects of the potions will be enough to easily get you through this fight again. So you see there we've got Tawny Owl, and you notice here that every time I kill an enemy I get the slowdown. Now that's from Superior Blizzard. And Superior Blizzard is one that we don't normally make use of, but it is extremely powerful. And if you just pile on all the potions like that with Thunderbolt, Superior Swallow and Superior Maribor Forest, you've got all the bonuses of those, and then Blizzard makes this a pretty easy part of the fight as well. So if you don't have the decoctions when it comes to this and it takes the decoctions off, don't worry about it, you should be fine with those. And don't forget that, as same as in the regular walkthrough, you can use Dimeritium bombs to close the portals quickly. Now after we've completed the Kaer Morhen part of the story there, we will go with Ciri and you will be fighting Imlerith. Now Imlerith we're going to use a specific sort of setup for again. So this time I can easily take him out before the 60 hits of the superior elemental oil runs out. So I have put fast metabolism back in the spare slot that we've got there. No need for fixative in this fight. Now you can fight him like sort of normally as you would. Now here I'm using the Ard Sweep and the Ancient Lashing Decoction, which again one of my favourite combinations, and I've managed to incorporate it onto the build with the extra points you get in New Game Plus. So I'm just building up my stamina regeneration with the Ancient Lashing Decoction. If you want to make super quick work of this fight though, you can do the following. So you equip the Manticore Pants, and again we've got fast metabolism. So that let me put Thunderbolt on, and then I also with fast metabolism waited for the toxicity to instantly die down, and then put on superior full moon potion just because, why not? And then afterwards it's a sort of gear switch back. But you can see here that you can very easily use Whirl and just get behind him, and before he even switches to the second stage of the fight you can just use Whirl and move to the left of his shield. So you saw there he was blocking some hits, but you can just carry on moving with Whirl and Severance, and Severance hits from so far away that I was actually able to use Irondight to get round the back of his shield and kill him before he could even progress to get into the second stage of the fight, where he starts teleporting around and generally being annoying. So you can take him out quite easily if you do that. So you just make sure you're using the correct potions, Superior Tawny Owl, Superior Thunderbolt and the regular decoctions. And then using the damage from Euphoria, you can just use Severance and Whirl and go to the left of Imlerith, as you saw just happening just before, and it will actually take him out before you have to deal with the second stage of the fight. Now again, just as you did in the first playthrough, there will be less of a premium on having the ability points at this stage, because you'll probably already be over level 75, have all the places of power from Velen, Skellige and White Orchard, and already have the build completed. But it's always nice to have extra points. So after you finish stoving Imlerith's head in like that, make sure that when you're speaking to Ciri you say that you want to wait a minute, take the magic acorn, which I'm just about to show in a moment. After we've just skipped through this dialogue, you want to go back to Imlerith's body and make sure we get the magic acorn and get those 2 points. So that's Kaer Morhen all sorted. Again, it's a lot easier the second time round with the New Game Plus. So that should be able to get us through that. And then that's the Imlerith fight completed and the magic acorn for the 2 points. So once that's all sorted, the last stages are going to be fighting. Please like and subscribe and leave any comments that you want to discuss as well. Make sure you get the magic acorn here. And as always, good luck on the path. Thank you.